What's up YouTube, Demi here with another build guide. This is for Taste the Lemon, my level 99 Cospri's Malice Discharge Assassin. Before we get too far into the guide though, I'd like to thank my Patreons and my Twitch subs, and anybody who donates, watches my videos, whatever, for helping support me in my dream. If you would like to become one of my supporters, the link to my Patreon is below this video. If you want to follow me on Twitch and subscribe there, that link is also in the description. So we'll go ahead and get started here. This character is cast on crit and Cospri's Malice, so this is your engine. It's the sword that says you get to trigger a socketed cold spell on melee crit, right? Discharge has fire, cold, and lightning tags, so every time I crit with a melee crit with its cyclone or shield charge, it casts anything socketed in here. So I have a link to it's basically a 3-link discharge, right? And then when you use cyclone, you can also get another cast on crit setup to cast a second discharge at the same time. And we have enough charge generation through like engines like Vol's Protector, being an assassin, we have Inya's Epiphany, we have Vol's Devotion for endurance charge generation. Like we just pump out charges like crazy, and it results in a very fun playstyle. This is a really old archetype of builds in Path of Exile, and like in 3.1, Vol Pact works with CI again, not just CI but with Energy Shield in general. So that gives us the ability to either remake old CI characters or to also make this a life-based character if you would like rather play the life-based build. I get a lot of flack on my build guides for not like making them league friendly, making them budget friendly or whatever, so in the interest of appeasing those people and helping to make these builds like more obtainable, I guess, for your average player, I will be including path of building pace bins for a life-based version in the forum guide, links in the description. And there will be a lesser version with like different ES gear, not my legacy ES gear, in the description as well as of course my my version. But like the guides that I post are more towards like you should be able to get all the concepts you need. All of the forum guides that I have always have like stat priority lists and stuff like that, so that even if you're not in standard, you don't have access to my level of gear, my level of currency, whatever legacy items, you should still be able to throw the build together and like achieve similar results. But I think I've been failing at like making sure that that's possible to like learn through what I explain here, so I'm going to do my best to improve that for the future. But as you can see, we're in a T16 map and like we're just cruising. I ran approximately 300 T16 Minotaur maps yesterday with this character, just like up to the boss. I'm not running the bosses because this setup is designed for speed mapping, not for bossing, right? If you want to do bossing on a cast on crit character, you're gonna have to probably do a Pathfinder and do a lot of different setups. But so we're gonna go over the skill tree and like the thoughts process behind this character. You're an assassin because assassin gives you a ridiculous amount of crit and crit multi, and damages enemies on low life, culling strike with crits, power charge on non-critical strikes. This is like a lot of our generation. And then we get plus 2% base critical strike chance while at maximum power charges, so that affects our shield charge, our cyclone, our discharge spell itself, and we get plus 1 max power charges and a whole bunch of multi. So without any power charges, just standing in my hideout, my main 6-link discharge has 522% multi. And then since we get 8% multi per power charge times 7, we're at like a lot of crit. Math is hard, I'm not doing right now. But yeah, that's your ascendancy. So for normal lab, pick up Unstable Infusion. For cruel lab, Deadly Infusion, Merc lab, Ambush, and Uber lab, Assassinate. So the skill tree, because our damage from discharge is based off of the charges that we have when we discharge, you get lightning per power charge, fire damage per endurance, and cold damage per frenzy charge. You're going to want to maximize how many charges you have and how fast you can generate them, right? So the more charges you have, the faster you can discharge, basically. Or the more times you can discharge with full charges. So my skill tree is you start as Assassin, or Shadow, sorry. You go up into the Trickery nodes for a bunch of elemental damage, crit multi, spell damage, ES. We travel down here for movement speed, more ES, attack speed, because we kind of like, we use shield charge as our main movement skill. The more attack speed you have, the faster you get through the maps. And then we stretch really far down to grab a Jewel Socket and Vol Pact. As I said before, Vol Pact now works with Energy Shield, By default, your leech per second is at 20% max now, just always. It's 20% of your maximum life, right? Vault Pact allows you to double that to 40% if you have no other maximum life leech modifiers. So that means that we can leech approximately 3.5k-ish, 3k-ish ES per second, which is really, really good. And since they got rid of Reflect in maps, unless you roll it on the map itself, there's no longer Reflect rares. You don't have to worry about that anymore, so you can just maximize your DPS without worrying about reflecting and instantly one-shotting yourself. Then we head over into the Sion section, pick up Melding, convert all of that with a Energy from Within jewel. If you can get it, Cannot Be Cursed with Silenced anywhere, get it on this, because it's like, if you're silenced, you can't cast spells, which means you can't cast your Discharge, so you don't do damage. It's really bad to be silenced. Try to get one of those somewhere. Then we head into the Witch Clusters to grab a bunch of Energy Shield stuff here, a bunch of AoE, area damage, Flask Effectiveness, just so we have better Flasks, Power Charge, and spell damage per Power Charge. This is a really strong node, actually, because we have 7 Power Charges. So you get 28% spell damage for one node. That's pretty good. Your average node is only 10%. And then we head up over here, grab another jewel socket, grab CI, pick up these nodes. I'm not level 100 yet. At level 100, I will pick up this node and finish the tree. But then you grab some more ES and some spell crit, spell multi. Ghost Reaper, so you can actually leech to your energy shield. If you don't pick this up, none of the leech matters. Power charge, jewel socket, and then we cut down into here, grab a bunch of attack speed, another jewel socket, ES in the middle, LE Equilibrium. This is a huge damage multiplier for us because of the creator of Cospri's Malice. He knew that this was for a Discharge character. The weapon itself has pure cold damage. What this means is you hit with cold damage, then they get negative 50 fire, negative 50 lightning resistance, right? Then you'll trigger your Discharge because you're going to crit with that cold damage, hitting them with fire and lightning while they have negative resists. And that'll of course reset their resistances to have positive lightning and fire res, but then the next time you hit with your shield charge or with your cyclone, you reset their resistances back down to negative fire and lightning. So you just keep getting more multipliers over and over and over, basically. More jewel sockets, head into the Templar start, you get some spell damage, attack speed, movement speed, attack speed, ES, AoE damage, and area of effect, some LE damage, LE resists, and then we use an intuitive leap jewel. These aren't that expensive, but like what they do is they allow you to allocate passes without connecting them to your tree. So you spend the 3 points for this jewel socket, and then it allows you to put 1, 2, 3 points without touching the other nodes. So it saves you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 skill points, which is pretty efficient. So into your other jewels, your rare jewels, if you have less ES than I do, I recommend you get % ES on them. But if you have enough ES or you're comfortable with whatever your level of ES, whether it's like 5k, 6k, 7k, 8k, 10k, whatever it might be, if you're comfortable with it, just go pure damage on your jewels. So things that scale Discharge. We are a spell, we are AoE, we're holding a shield, it's fire, cold, and lightning. So like crit multi with fire, crit multi with lightning, crit multi with cold, crit multi with elemental, those all scale your multi. Spell damage or holding a shield, generic damage, area damage. Those all also scale your damage. I'm trying to think of other ones. I think those are the main ones. And then like when you want to go for attack speed, if you go for attack speed with swords or attack speed while holding a shield, it gives you the highest bonus per like section of the jewel. Discharge doesn't really get that much bonus from flat damage scaling, such as abyssal jewels, because of the base amount of damage per charge. Like if you see, it's 37 to 700 base lightning damage per power charge, and you get 7 of them. So like if you added like 50 lightning damage, it's gonna make literally no effect. So try to scale multi through rare jewels, such as these. All of my jewels have a ton of multi on them. This is double attack speed, double multi, double attack speed, double multi. This one is double multi damage attack speed, so this one's not quite as good as I would personally like. And then we have things like this, triple multi with a hybrid crit accuracy roll, and quad multi down here for like, just in case I wanted some more damage. And then down here, we already did that one, this one as well, we have double multi damage attack speed. As you can see, none of my jewels have ES, but I'm okay with 7.5k ES. And then if we go into the gear itself, your required uniques, you need Cospri's Malice, and you need a Vault's Protector, right? The generation from Vault's Protector is you get a power charge for each enemy you hit with a crit, because we're crit capped more or less all the time. With once we have our power charges up, we just crit constantly, and that means every time we hit anything, we get a power charge. So that's a huge engine, a source of power charges, right? And then other uniques that are really, really nice but aren't required. Vol's Devotion converts your power charges whenever you expire or consume a power charge. It gives you that many endurance charges. So if you're discharging 7 power charges, it's going to try to give you 7 endurance charges. But since we only have, I think, 5 or 4 max, it gives us maximum every time, more or less. It also has a bit of strength, a bit of int, a bunch of vol res, which is really nice, and some energy shield as well. And then the last unique for me is Inya's Epiphany. I've been testing these a lot the past week or two instead of Death's Doors. I used to use Death's Doors because these didn't exist and it gave you an endurance charge and you need to bleed, but these exist now, and the bonuses they give us, we get movement speed, increased intelligence, which gives you quite a bit of energy shield scaling. You get damage per power charge, so that's 35% increased damage at max power charges. You also get 25% chance that if you would gain a power charge, you instead gain up to your maximum number of power charges. So if I get a small enemy crit, just one enemy, not a big pack, I'll get a power charge. I have 25% chance to then gain 7 power charges. So this, when you're on single target, it helps you generate 7 power charges stacks every single time you're hitting anything. It greatly improves your single target DPS. And it's kind of dumb. It's really just a little bit OP in my eyes. But those are your uniques. The rest of your items are just energy shield items. So shield, get as much ES as you can. Spell damage, spell crit is always nice. Resistances, intelligence, whatever stats you think you need. Block chance is also really nice here. This shield is of course one of my mirror items. I crafted this during Legacy League. Took a bunch of Eternals and like a bunch of other divining, metacrafting, whatever. It is in my mirror thread, but you do not need this. Gloves. For essence crafts, if you go for insanity as a suffix, it gives you more attack and cast speed for socketed gems, so I put my shield charge there, which just makes it that much faster. But you don't need that, it's just a goal to shoot for. So otherwise on gloves you're going to want as much ES as possible and as much resistances, attack speed, accuracy is nice, intelligence is nice. Like you need quite a large amount of dex and int to even be able to use a Cospri's Malice. 212 dex, which is quite a bit. So as long as you have enough dex to equip that, you're good to go. Oh, I forgot to talk about enchants. Enchantment on your boots, you want to get the leech enchant. This allows you to leech without having Vinktars up. So like as long as you're clearing packs, you're gonna have 0.6% of all damage, leeches life and mana. That'll keep your ES leeching up. It'll keep your mana full. Like you'll be good to go with just that enchant. As for glove enchants, there's a lot of options here. I prefer Commandment of Winter when hit. So like if I take a small hit, what happens is you'll fire a projectile that hits repeatedly. It's kind of like a cold ball lightning, and it has really, really high crit because of our crit and a lot of damage. So what it does is it freezes enemies in an AoE spell type thing in a line. If they tag you, they then get frozen repeatedly or stunned and frozen, and then they can't hit you again, or it just kills them outright. As for your helmet, you're going to want as much ES, intelligence, accuracy, resistances as possible. And then for the enchant, this is the best enchant. You have a chance to just not consume any charges at all when you discharge. So if you had a full stack, 7 power charges, 5 endurances, discharge, 30% chance to just stay at those charges and discharge for full damage again every time. It's an incredibly powerful enchant. Really, really nice. And then your rings, I go for Diamond Elrion rings. These are pretty easy to get if you just like buy a -8 Elrion and multi-mod it. You just throw on some flat ES, some resistances, some accuracy, some intelligence, you're good to go. Same on the other one. The legacy rolls on these are the % maximum ES. You can no longer craft that, so just put flat ES on it, you'll be fine. And then your belt slot, there's a lot of options here. You could go for a Headhunter. I never use Headhunter because it kind of ruins the validity of a character. If you throw a Headhunter on a character, it looks the same as every other character with a Headhunter. All the fine-tuning I put in the build is completely pointless, so I don't use that. But you're going to want to get a belt with as much ES, resist, and strength if possible. And then if you can get a corruption with +1 endurance charge, that's great, but you don't need that. Other options for belts, you can use like the Flow Untethered belt, which I'm not sure where I have those, but they are, yeah, here they are. These are from Harbinger League. They give you cooldown recovery speed. The default cooldown recovery on Cospri, I believe, is 4 or 5 times a second, and Cast on Crit has a cooldown of 4 times a second. So this lets you cast more per second, basically. It also gives you energy shield recovery rate, which means that you leech faster, and it gives you attack and cast speed, so you just like move on there quicker. Other options, you can use like an essence, or I don't think it's essence, what's it called? It's Shaper or Elder. You can get cooldown reduction on a belt, and you can get cooldown reduction on boots if you use rare boots. So that'll help you discharge even faster after all. And then flasks, because we're using a lot of uniques, or sorry, what am I saying? We're not using a lot of uniques, so you can kind of more or less do whatever you want with your flasks. I go for an Onslaught flask, with shock removal, so as we need to be immune to shocks for our Vingtars, which shocks you. You go for Diamond Flasks to help get your crit up all the time. Even though we're already like 95% crit with power charges, I go for this to just guarantee that I always crit, basically. This has freeze immunity, and then I go for Basalt Flask of Staunching. The Bleed, Freeze, and Shock can be swapped between these three. It really doesn't matter which one it's on. But with a Basalt Flask specifically, with reduced charges used, if you have 23% or higher, you will get 2 uses out of your Basalt Flask, which is really, really helpful while mapping. And then Quicksilver Flask, you're going to want to go for Alchemist of Adrenaline. This gives you increased effect, and then movement speed during Flask effect, so you have like the fastest possible Quicksilver, basically. And then your last class is a Vingtars. The most powerful Vingtars for this type of character is Lightning Penetration. I do not have that for this. This is a legacy to spells, but Penetration is much, much better. And you do not need legacy, like you clear fast enough that you'll refill either way, but I have a legacy lying around, so I'm using it. Alright, that is all the gear and stuff. Let's go into the gem links. In your Cospri's Malice yourself, you basically have a 3-link Discharge setup, right? So I have Discharge linked to Controlled Destruction, and because my gear and my jewels are high enough, I don't use a 3rd support. I just have it linked to item quantity to do a little bit of magic finding without affecting my clear speed. If you need the damage, you can throw in like an increased AoE, a conk effect, you can throw in LE Focus is fine, Crit Multi is fine, Spell Crit is fine, like you got a lot of options here. Just throw in some other support that you feel like is good. You can also put in like a Life Leech gem if you're struggling to get Leech up all the time. It's all up to you. The main 6-link Cyclone Discharge setup is Cyclone, Cast on Crit, Discharge, and then we use Increased Crits, Conk Effect, Elemental Focus. This is like a bunch of more multipliers basically for the Discharge. If you look at the two numbers, this is the one in my Cospris, it's 900 base, again without any power charges. And then with all of those links it goes with a 3.2k. I believe my maximum damage on a single discharge, let me pull up Path of Building, this is my current character, is about 500k average damage when you calculate your power charges, endurance charges, lucky crits, enemy is shocked, and enemy was hit by cold damage for your Cospri's negative cold damage stuff. You hit really, really hard, and as you can see, I'm crit capped with diamonds, so I'm effectively 100% crit, 578 multi. It's kind of dumb. And then your other links, I'm using 2 purities personally because my resistances are not quite high enough. If I had resist on my shield or on my boots, or like a better belt maybe, or better like resistances on my gloves, I could use no purities and discipline, but like I am using 2 purities and discipline. If you have the resistances and you want to be ES based, use discipline and then use haste and Herald of Ice with some curse on hit setup if you want. You can't use Herald of Thunder or Wrath because it'll mess up your equilibrium. But because I need the purities, I'm using 2 purities, discipline, and an enlightened 4. And then my cast when damage taken setup is cast when damage taken Warlord's Mark Blade Vortex. This is the lower level one, so it spams things all the time. Anytime anything hits me, they get Warlords, which gives me Life Leech, Mana Leech on hitting them, and I also get endurance charges when I kill those. And then the Blade Vortex is kind of just passive ticking, like because of the assassin, 10% chance to gain a power charge on non-critical strike. This is more or less up all the time while you're mapping, and it just keeps hitting things every second, giving you passive power charges because it's got pretty bad critical strike chance. It's also, the reason I chose Blade Vortex over something like Firestorm is that Blade Vortex travels with your character, and we move really, really fast, so if one pack hits you, triggers this spell, you then shield charge away from that pack because it's dead, you get to keep the Blade Vortex with you, so you can hit the next pack with it even if they haven't hit you yet. Other links, higher level cast and damage taken setup with Ice Golem. Ice Golem gives you accuracy, it gives you crit, it's just good overall. And then I have a Mortal Call. You're going to want to use the highest level Mortal Call you can because it scales the duration per endurance charge. And since we're generating endurances with Vol's Devotion, if we have a high level of Mortal Call, you get a higher duration in Mortal Call. And I believe with max charges for me, it lasts like 3 or 4 seconds, maybe even 5 seconds. It's quite a bit. It's a long time to be immune to physical damage. They have a random other 1-link portal. If you wanted to, you could just use increased duration here, so your Mortal Call lasts even longer. And then my last setup is the shield charge setup. It's shield charge, faster attacks, fortify, and increased critical strikes. This guarantees that we get the increased crits. It guarantees that our shield charge crits all the time, really, which is really, really good, because if you don't crit with that shield charge, you're not going to discharge with your Cospris. But yeah, I believe that concludes the build guide. It took us about 300 Minotaurs to get 60%, so we're going to need to do another 200-ish to get a level 100 character, but I will be doing that over the next couple days. The path of building, or sorry, the forum guide will be linked below. Path of building codes are in the forum guide. If you have any questions, leave a comment here or in the forum topic. I will get back to you as soon as possible. You can also always just pop over to my Twitch and ask me questions there. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video. That'll be Demi out.